And rolling.
Good morning. One of the most controversial social issues in present-day America is that of same-sex marriage. Today I will give you my reasons for supporting it and why I believe you should as well. I want to make this perfectly clear. I respect anyone who opposes same-sex marriage on the basis of their religious beliefs. However, I simply disagree with them because for me, this is a matter of civil rights for all Americans, nothing more, nothing less. Much as many people once opposed interracial marriage, Americans' position in favor of same-sex marriage has evolved in recent years and continues doing so. When then Senator Barack Obama ran for president in 2008, both he and his major primary opponent, Senator Hillary Clinton, favored civil unions for gays over marriage. However, during a May 2012 television interview with Robin Roberts of ABC News, President Obama spoke out in favor of same-sex marriage, and Mrs. Clinton did so earlier this year as well. In many ways, the personal accounts that both President Obama and Mrs. Clinton shared are at the root of many Americans' changing viewpoint in this area. I have a younger cousin who's a lesbian, and over the years, any lingering doubts or reservations I may have harbored were erased by my love and admiration for her and the way she lives her life. Earlier this year, U.S. Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, a Republican who was considered as a possible vice presidential running mate for Mitt Romney last year, announced that due to his son Will's coming out to he and his wife in 2011, he changed against same-sex marriage to supporting it. In an essay published in the Columbia Dispatch newspaper, Portman wrote, "I have come to believe that if two people are prepared to make a lifetime commitment to love and care for each other in good times and in bad, the government shouldn't deny them the opportunity to get married." Since his announcement in March, support for Portman has dropped among Republicans in his state. According to a recent Washington Post article by Rachel Weiner, 41% of GOP voters said they view Portman less favorably because of his shift. That was a drop of 13 points in just 1 month. Portman's stance is in stark contrast to that of Arizona GOP Representative Matt Salmon, who, even though he has an openly gay son, reaffirmed his opposition to same-sex marriage in April. I don't support the gay marriage. I'm just not there as far as believing in my heart that we should change 2,000 years of social policy in favor of a redefinition of the family, Salmon said. As we sit here today, the U.S. Supreme Court is deliberating the constitutionality of California's Proposition 8, the controversial ballot referendum passed in November 2008 that banned same-sex marriage. This vote, which opponents claim was the result of the confusing manner in which the proposition was written, many voters later said they thought they had actually voted against the measure, reversed by popular vote the state Supreme Court's decision just months earlier to recognize marriage equality. A recent poll by Nate Silver of the highly regarded and widely read 538 blog had support for same-sex marriage at 51% of those questioned, and there are now 12 states plus the District of Columbia where it's now legal. And yet, most Republicans continue opposing it. At an April meeting of the Republican National Committee, a resolution was adopted by unanimous vote that stated, "The Republican National Committee implores the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold the sanctity of marriage in its rulings on California's Proposition 8 and the Federal Defense of Marriage Act." Many older African Americans are very religious and resist any attempts to link gay rights with the civil rights struggles of the 1950s and 60s. However, in a move that surprised much of its membership, the board of the nation's most recognized civil rights organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, fully supported President Obama's statement last year when it said in a resolution, "We support marriage equality consistent with equal protection under the law provided under the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution." My grandfather, the late Reverend D.S. Cunningham, was not only a powerful minister and preacher, he was also a man of great integrity and dignity and a civil rights leader in Memphis, Tennessee. He believed that discrimination against anyone for any reason was discrimination against us all. Most important to me, he was my first hero. Now, I won't be so presumptuous as to say that I know for certain that my grandfather would support same-sex marriage today because, frankly, it was something we never discussed. But what I do know is that the lessons he taught me by his words and actions, the way he treated everyone with dignity and respect and lived his life by the golden rule, have led me to believe that it is long past time to end this form of discrimination. No matter what the Supreme Court decides in July, most observers think it's just a matter of time when two consenting adults, irrespective of their sexual orientation, will be able to express their love and devotion to each other by getting legally married in every state of the nation. More and more open-minded Americans, particularly those between the ages of 18 to 30, believe that one's sexual orientation shouldn't matter when it comes to who you choose to love and marry. That is the America that I want to live in, and I hope you feel the same way too. Thank you.
So, catch us up with what's the Constitution, when is there going to be a ruling? They think
Most observers of the court believe the ruling will come in late June or early July. And it's widely anticipated that Judge Kennedy will be the swing vote. And based on the oral arguments back in March, it's hard to say which way he's going to go. He raised some questions that made some people believe that he's going to rule against Prop 8, and then others say, you know, he's Catholic, he's this. So it's really a toss-up. It's going to be a 5-4 vote more than likely.
I agree with you on that, what you said about people don't recognize that it's the same as the civil rights, and it's also the same as it used to be illegal to marry interracially. That it's the same exact argument, the same exact infringement on people's rights as it is today with people not being gay people not being allowed to get married.
Well, a lot of older African Americans have to understand that civil rights are not the exclusive property of Africa.
Right, exactly. Civil rights, the word civil means for all of us.
Right. And when blacks were fighting for their civil rights in the 50s and 60s, that's exactly what they're trying to do, get the civil rights guaranteed under the Constitution. That's all.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
So you can see how then that either side is coming down, obviously, you know, the people for it are working from a civil rights perspective, right?
Excuse me?
The people for it are
Yes.
working from, and the people against it are sticking with the religious perspective. So
For the
whether or
most part,
not-
that's how it's breaking down.
Yeah, so pretty much, you know, we've got these two very powerful values that are competing, and this is what rises to the level of the Supreme Court. But I think Lonnie's talking about the Loving case in 1968.
Exactly the case I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Loving
Yeah,
versus
where
Virginia.
a white man, Loving, married an African-American woman in Virginia.
Loving versus Virginia.
Yes, and so it was illegal, and they were asked to leave the state, or they spent 2 years in jail.
Yep. That's exactly what I was
That was
doing.
1968, so I know some of you think that's ancient history, but it's not.
It's not.
So that landmark, so I think, I'm not sure whether the Supreme Court, I don't think they argued the Levy case, but you hear that.
Yes.
It's being argued from the civil rights
The
perspective.
the religious argument really bothers me, and the reason why the religious argument bothers me is because where it's mentioned that two people of the same sex should not lay down together is Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is Old Testament, and if you're going to go by Old Testament, then a woman who has sex before marriage is supposed to be killed. If you're not supposed to put tattoos on your body, you're not supposed to shave the four corners of your face. These are all things in the exact same law, so in the exact same part of the Bible, Deuteronomy. So if you're going to pick and choose, how come you only pick the one about the gay people? You're not picking the one that says if you shave all the four corners of your face, you're going to hell. Or if a woman has sex out of wedlock, she's going to die. No one pays attention to those, just the one about the gay people.
People interpret the U.S. Constitution and holy text to support their argument.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I choose to keep it strictly on a legal basis.
Right,
But
exactly.
you know, societies move very slow.
Yes.
You know, it moves very slowly, and it takes decades, if ever, anything to change. You know, and especially with some of these institutions, you know, I think even if some of you follow the theology after Vatican II, people were overwhelmed with even the changes then. How could you have lived a certain portion of your life that if you went ate meat on Friday, you'd go to hell, all of a sudden it was okay to eat meat.
Right.
They had to do that during World War II because there were men in the fields fighting.
The same with working on the Sabbath. If you work on Sunday, you're supposed to be beaten down.
Yeah, so how, you know, or whether you change a word from I believe or we believe, if somebody changes that, you think, you mean I've been saying that all those years and now somebody's just making a change?
Well,
So it's, you know, so I'm not saying that the change isn't a good change, or changes isn't good, but you're going to have people who are frightened by making any of those changes, because that's what they've come to believe. They base their life on this particular institution running this way. And when you think of actually religion, it's basically the same as it was, really, from thousands of years ago.
well, you know, it's been said that you can't legislate people's mind, but you can change their behavior legally. And that's what's gonna happen with this issue. You know, generation by generation, it'll change. Younger people are far more open-minded and more accepting of things. My cousin, my uncle's almost 80, her father, and this is his youngest child from late life marriage. And he was very much anti-gay as I was growing up. And I mean, he used all the derogatory terms and everything. Then as he got older and started having younger children and was around different people, he started evolving on a lot of issues. But then when his daughter comes out as a lesbian, what's he gonna do, kick her out the house?
He could have.
Yeah, he could have, but you know, if you truly love your child,
You
have to
accept
accept
them.
your child as they are.
Exactly.
You know? And particularly with older black men, they, for some reason, they use their child who may be homosexual as an attack on their masculinity. And it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
This is something that happens, and you can either roll with it or, you know.
But I think you make the point, and it is make the point, that once we have a law in place, whether or not someone agrees with the law, once it becomes a law, there's consequences if you don't follow the law.
Right.
So we're really not, so your opinion is your opinion is your opinion.
Right.
But if that's the law, that you can't hit somebody else, that's the law. And so it has a higher bar. The law should have a higher bar than everyday sort of opinion about it. But it does take society some time to make adjustment and things, you know, in your lifetime, you know, things are still moving rather slowly. You know, slowly. But it'd be interesting to see. We'll watch and wait for that.
Well
Yeah,
thought out,
honestly.
well executed speech.